anyway, she's asking me to get down on all fours and start barking like a dog. And oh shit. Hi everybody. What's up? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and today we are finally diving back into the Dresden Files for White Knight, the 9th book in the series, written, of course, by Jim Butcher. As always, we'll be going full spoilers up to this point in the series, but we won't be spoiling anything ahead of White Knight. So if you've only read up to White Knight, you are safe and sound here, hidden away from the big scary world of spoilers that is the internet. But first, we have some non-spoiler stuff to talk about, among which is asking you to literally just assault those like and subscribe buttons. I want to see some nasty, malicious shit. Just destroy those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, every time you like and subscribe is another meal that I feed to Gabe before I get out the whip and make him create content for this channel. So do the right thing.
Yeah. Definitely do the right thing. I'm tired of being down there.
Yeah. If you want to keep up with what we're reading, get fantasy and sci-fi recommendations, or just want to check in on the live feed of Gabe chained up in my basement, you can follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy for all that and more. Dude, the intros are just gonna get weirder and weirder.
I love it though,
like,
dude. You're literally building like a story. Like,
I know.
And every time we do a video, you get just a little bit more of what's happening to me down in the basement. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, they're just slowly gonna escalate until they are like unrecognizable.
Yep, I can't wait.
I mean, listeners, it's boring doing the same intro over and over. So we got to find a way to spice it up and keep you guys on your toes.
And we'll write like a novella out of it. Like we'll just take those parts of the story, and in 3 years, it'll be perfect.
My life as a content slave.
That's right.
All right. Coming up in the next few weeks are more podcast episodes where we discuss Mr. Robot in our Fantasy Files Reacts videos. The first one should be up by the time this episode goes up. And somewhere around mid-July, we will be having Chris McGrath on the podcast. And if you don't know who he is the cover artist for all of the Dresden Files books. He's done Mistborn and also King's Dark Tidings. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. Probably later in June or later in July, mid to late July. That'll be coming up, and we are super excited about that. That'll probably be one of the biggest names that we've had on the podcast. Outside of podcast episodes, I have a couple spoiler-free videos coming out. A Horizon Forbidden West review that is just, it's going to be awesome. I'm editing it right now, and it is so cool. So I'm excited hope you guys for that. Will tune into that. Yeah, it's going to be sick, dude. And a video where I go through my favorite hidden gems kind of books that I feel like don't get talked about enough. That'll probably come out. Horizon will probably come out before this video post, but the hidden gems video will probably be after this one. So keep an eye out for that, because that's going to be a really fun video too, especially if you need new fantasy and just random book recommendations. Now that the mountain of housekeeping is out of the way, let's talk about what we've been reading. I feel like you and I haven't really talked about what we've been reading lately. So
it's because I've been sucked into the realm of lit RPG is why.
Oh, that's interesting. Why. So what is it?
So I finished, it's a 6-book series, and it's the Life Reset series. It's same basis as the Land or any lit RPG, right? Get stuck in a game, but it goes about it in like a different way than the Land, which was really intriguing. I had to kind of slog through the first one and it was okay. And by the time like the third book happened, I was like, all right, this is like up there. This is really cool. So I thoroughly enjoyed it a lot. I don't think you would like it personally, just honestly, but
Yeah.
I did, and it was awesome. And then of course White Knight. And then I started Web of Eyes. Was that the one you told me to
Yeah.
today? So I got like 3 hours into that, and that's
What do you
pretty
think
cool
so
so far.
far?
I
You
like it
like
a
it?
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm liking it.
Oh,
I think that's going to be a cool book. And is it a series? I didn't do any research. Is it a series? I'm assuming.
yeah, it's a 6-book series.
Okay,
I'm on,
sweet.
I think I still have to read the 5th and the 6th one.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, what do you think about it so far?
I like it. I think it's kind of a cool like plot premise, you could say. I'm not gonna say where I'm at in it. Like I said,
Yeah,
2 hours in, so not a whole lot, but I like the characters so far.
you've met the thief.
Yep, met the thief and the knight, or the white, whatever his name is,
Yeah,
the guy that's kind of guiding him, whatever. And so yeah, I like both those, and I like the kind of the premise with the hierarchy, the queen and the son that's kind of begotten and sick or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I'm excited for it.
Cool. Yeah, I was when I read that, I was like, I definitely think that this is a Gabe
Yeah.
kind of book. And the books just get, I don't know if progressively better is the right word, because I really, really liked the first one just because it was so like hilarious.
Yeah, yes.
And as the books go on, though, it turns from this little tiny story about like this thief and this knight kind of going on a little adventure, and each book like progressively opens up the world. And so I just finished the 4th book in that series, and I think that it's like my favorite one. It like everything just gets bigger and bigger, and before you know it, like there's a few different plot lines going through. It's never as many plot lines as like a big series like
Yeah.
Wheel of Time, or even like Greenbone Saga. It wasn't even, it doesn't get as complicated as that even, but there are like more point of views that get thrown in,
Yeah.
and they're always like really, really fun. And because I had finished the 3rd book, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll read the 4th eventually, but I don't know if I'm going to read it like right away. But then I ended up just needing something to read and went into the 4th book, and I'm like, oh, this is like actually awesome. Like I'm
Sweet.
I'm really, really enjoying my time with it. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes me feel a lot better. I'm looking forward to it.
What do you think of the narrator? You were saying that he
Yep.
was in
Yeah.
Iron Druid.
Yeah, he narrates Iron Druid, and I love his voice. I love he does so. I read the spin-off, Ink and Sigil, the 2-book series, and so in that, he's so good at, and Luke Daniels, he's so good at different voices, different accents from totally different regions. And there's a part in Ink and Sigil where it's just him talking to you, and he's like, I really wanted to, like, he talked about different areas in Ireland,
Oh,
and he's like
cool.
different dialects, and so each character like has a true dialect, even some forgotten dialects that he had to like study and learn to do it. And yeah, he's really good.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
I've never heard a note from the narrator. That's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
cool.
That's really cool. We'll have to listen to that next time we're in the car
For
together or
sure.
something. But yeah, I really liked him. I thought he sounded a lot like Nick Podell.
Yep.
Obviously Nick Podell is like the master, but
Yeah.
I thought this guy was pretty close. So I have gone down a rabbit hole of Dean Koontz books.
Yes.
Ever since we went to Portland and we were like looking at his books in the store, it just like reignited something in me where I was like, I really want to read more like mystery, thriller, suspense, horror, those kind of books. And so I picked up a couple of them. I read Twilight Eyes, which was really good. It's not my favorite by far. It's probably, so far I've read 4 in my whole
Wow.
life.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so I've read like Watchers, Soul Survivor, and then the two that I just read.
Yep.
And Twilight Eyes is probably my least favorite, but it's
Mm.
still like, it's still a very good book. Like,
Yeah.
you know how like, even though like whatever, like, I don't know, Turncoat or Small Favor is like my least favorite Dresden Files book, like at the end
They're
of the
still
day, it's still
awesome.
a
Yeah.
Dresden Files book, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I felt about Twilight Eyes. It's about this kid who, he's like 17 and he's kind of a drifter, and he ends up at this carnival, and he works as like a carny. He's, you know, running all these like games and rides and stuff like that. And he has this ability where he can see demons that have taken over people,
Whoa.
and he calls them goblins. And so he can tell whenever they're like about to hurt somebody, or if, because like all they want to do is like cause chaos and
Yeah.
kill. And so he kind of like hunts them, and he's been hunting them his entire life, which is kind of why he's like this drifter kid.
Does he, just quick question, does he like hunt to kill them or hunt to like do an exorcism on them?
No, he kills them
Okay.
because so there's no, so I guess I should clarify. They're not demons that have possessed like humans. They're more like demons in human form.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so he like can see them, and he goes and he like kills them
Yeah.
and has to like hide the body and stuff. And there's lots of like really cool twists and turns. There's a very, very good romance in the book, which is kind of like the secondary plot to
Yeah.
everything that's going
Yep.
on, because from the beginning he meets this girl and they fall in love, and like the whole book is just them like trying to get to a place in life where they're not on the run all the time
Yeah.
from these demons. And so yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed my time with it. The matter of fact, the ending made me tear up a little bit.
Nice.
And then right now I have like 2 hours left on his other book called Lightning. It's about time travel.
Whoa.
And basically this lady, Laura, her entire life, she basically, the world just has it out for her. Like there's times where, you know, like the very first scene we get is her being born, and it's this doctor who's like an alcoholic, and he is about to completely mess up the birth
Ooh.
because of like negligence. And so this guy, so like things like that'll happen, and like later on, like this other person wants to like, you know, like sexually assault her, and then there's other people that try to kill her and stuff. And so the world is just constantly coming at her. And throughout her entire life, whenever something like this has happened, there's been this guy that showed up out of the blue to save her life.
Whoa.
And so the first scene we get is this doctor, and he's at home, and he's like, you know, drinking whiskey, and he's just smashed. He gets called into the hospital, and they're like, hey, like your patient is here, like they're about to have their baby. And he's like, I'll be there in a second. And he goes out to this car, and this dude, this like badass looking dude, just shows up, and he points a gun at him, and he's like back into the house. And
Whoa.
so the doctor goes back inside, and he's like, we're going to sit here for the next like 6 hours while that lady has her child in the hands of a more capable doctor. And then after that, like, I'll let you go. And so he does things like this. He intervenes at all these random points in her life. And she never really knows why until she's a lot older, and like the big events of the book start picking up. But the book it mostly just follows her like growing up, and all these different times where something crazy would happen, and this random guy would come in and save her and then disappear. And it just kind of goes throughout her whole life, and then things start kind of unraveling and coming to a head later on, because one of the laws of this whole time travel thing is you can stop an event from happening early on in someone's life, but the world is always going to try to right that. Like
Yeah.
if someone's meant to die, like the world is going to keep trying to do that,
Yep.
right? Because you know, it's part of like destiny or
Yeah.
whatever. And so that's like what the book is about. And I am having such a good time with it. It is so good. I don't know if I would say it's better than Watchers, but it's certainly like right there. Like it's certainly like really close.
Sweet.
So yeah, that's definitely a recommend from me.
I'm putting it on my Audible list right now.
For sure. Yeah, you would definitely enjoy it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't quite know what I'm reading next, but yeah, just been on that kick.
And how about what we're watching? Have you been watching any
Sure.
TV other than Mr. Robot or any series or anything?
No, I don't think so. Not besides Mr. Robot.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I've been trying to balance Mr. Robot and the Flash because I'm super like very much into the Flash right now.
How far into the Flash are you?
We're like halfway through the second season, so there's still you know 5 seasons after. But dude, it's the world is opening up. Yeah.
I think I can't remember which season it was, but somewhere around like season 3 or something, there's all these like different timelines, and it was really hard to like keep track of. And so
yeah, like, we're just breaking into the whole timeline thing.
Oh, right, really?
Now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Have you been playing anything?
No, dude. I've wanted to. I've been like stuck in this rut for like the last like 2 months of just like wanting to, because there was a time where like for like probably a month straight, you know, maybe 3 weeks, like I was like getting up early, just not like on purpose, but I just would like get up at 7 or get up at 6:30 and be awake. And I would sit and play like Assassin's Creed for an hour or two before I go to work. And it was like so fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I had so much fun. And like, I just can't find like the energy to sit down. And I don't want to say energy because like I have energy, but I just can't like get myself to do it. But I want to. It's a weird feeling.
You should seriously buy, if you haven't played it yet, you should buy BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
And just play the first like 30 minutes. And if you're not like extremely interested, like, man, I think you will be. I think if you just like started that game, you would be like, what the fuck is this? Like, and you just go for it.
And that's what I need, dude. I need something to just grab me quick, because then I can dedicate, you know, time to it and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because that's what Assassin's Creed did. I bought it when it came out, you know, 2 years ago or 3 or whenever it came out. Played it for like 20 minutes and I was like, oh, this isn't as good as Odyssey. And I would play Odyssey. And I was like, I'll try it again. And I played for an hour and it was like, oh my God, let's keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole like opening sequence of BioShock Infinite is so like mysterious. And like, there's this whole like, you know, I could go on for an hour explaining what it is, but the opening sequence and like that first like level or like that first like area and just kind of the story that it takes you on, like you just like, it like pushes you to want to know what's happening and to want to know more and more.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah, I think you'll love it. Did you see that in the our podcast group text? I mentioned that the people that made Until Dawn have come out with a new game.
I did
the
see
controller
that.
horror game.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Do you have any more info on it?
Yeah, so it's called the Quarry. And it's basically the same thing as Until Dawn, except it's updated. And I think it's like a summer camp or something, and you're trying to survive the night. And so that, you know, there's all the different decisions that you can make and make the story go one way or the other. And it comes out, we're recording this on the 9th, and it comes out tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, dude, before I move, I wonder if you should just like, or I go over there for a day or something and just bring it.
If you get it on your computer, we can play it together every night.
Yeah, but I don't want to play it online. It's so much more fun when we're
I know
passing the
it's fun, but I'm
controller.
saying like, as hard as it is to like get together for an
Yeah,
extended period of time, that's
right.
there's our out right
Yeah, for
there.
sure. For sure. But yeah, I'm super excited for it because I don't know. What did you think of the last one we did where it's like the Egyptian one?
So I think that the first one we played was hands down the best, and the
Yeah.
rest like were so I should say that one, and then the haunted ship, whatever.
Yeah.
So those two were like very like engrossing and like
Yeah.
like super into it. But then the one that we did was like it was cool, but it wasn't like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It really wasn't all there.
I know. I feel like we kept trying to like push ourselves to like sit down and play it.
And it was
And
just
then
like,
every time we did, I was like, God, I just don't want to play this.
Yeah,
Like,
for
I
real.
don't know.
Yep. Yeah, dude,
Uh,
those times when you would sit down and like remember the first
oh
time
my
we ever
God.
tried it, we were, I think,
We were at my mom's
yeah, you're
house.
at your mom's house, exactly. And dude, yeah, that's a blast. Highly
That
recommend for anybody watching. Those games are so much fun. If you have, a brother, sister, friends,
yeah.
girlfriend, just sit down and play it together. It's so much fun.
Yeah, they're called the Dark Pictures
Anthology,
Anthology.
yeah.
And yeah, just to like reminisce for a second,
Yeah.
that first one was so funny because or not funny, it was so much fun because we were both working together, but we were so Gabe and I used to work together doing construction, and there was this job like 3 hours north of me, and so my mom offered for us to go up there and stay at her place. She had like this extra bedroom, and so like two kids in like junior high, we have like we have like this TV, we've shut off all the lights, and we have like these two sleeping bags lined up right next to each other.
Yep.
And
It's so much fun,
we're
dude.
like laying on the floor with the controller, and we have like a notepad between us, like keeping notes on like the story and
Yeah,
all
on
this
who's
stuff in the
who,
game.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we have my dog came with us, so it's like sitting with us, but everything is like pitch black. And so it was so
Yeah,
much
that was
fun.
fun.
It reminded me of like sleepovers in like junior
Yep,
high and stuff.
good times.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we talk about some Dresden?
Yes, sirree.
All right, guys, this is your spoiler warning. Just for White Knight and everything before it. Like I said, anything after White Knight won't get spoiled. So yeah, spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. All right, dude. So what are your initial thoughts on White Knight
So
after finishing it?
between us, we've reread the Dresden Files quite a few times. And sometimes it takes me a year, 2 years, because like I've already known about it, 4 years now, right?
Probably
And so
less
like,
than that.
yeah, and so I forget kind of not where they line up, but like which books like were the most like entertaining, I guess. Even though,
Yeah,
like you said, it's a Dresden Files book, they're awesome.
sure.
But this one, I picked out so much more. Like Molly's story was like absolutely incredible, and that was something that I had missed before, like this kind of like realization story where she's starting to understand the world around her, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I missed it, and I was stoked to get back into it. And it's like, right now it's probably this is probably like one of my favorite ones for now, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I I was looking back on our videos, and the last time that we did a Dresden Files discussion was in February.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's been
Yeah,
so long, and yeah, it was great to jump back in there, and I picked up so much more than I think I have in the past reading it this time.
for sure. Yeah, I felt the same way. And yeah, I just getting into it, I was like, man, why don't I make more of an effort to like read Dresden Files more often? Because I
Yeah,
love it. Every
yeah.
time I get into it, I absolutely love it. But I get distracted by the new and shiny books.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, getting back into this book, I was like, man, it's just Dresden Files. Like, it's just
Yeah.
awesome. Like, it's always going to be a good time. However, So I will say that this book specifically used to be like one of like my top 3 favorite books. And because it was like one of the first ones that I read, because I read like Proven Guilty, then I read White Knight, and then I went back to the beginning. And so, you know, White Knight was always kind of really nostalgic for me, I guess. Kind of the way that Proven Guilty was, but reading Proven Guilty last time, I was like, oh yeah, like this is definitely like my favorite book.
Yep.
But then going into White Knight, I remember having such a great time with it. And I did have a great time, but I don't think that it would be in my top 3 anymore.
Yeah.
Like I think that it's a good book, but it really takes until, I don't know, maybe 60% of the way in for things to really be rolling and for them to like actually be figuring out the mystery and like,
that's true.
You know, kind of going. It took a long time to get there. Matter of fact, when I was, because I did a read through of this twice, and on the first read through, I didn't even have any notes for the first like half of it.
Yeah.
And then I had to like, you know,
Force yourself to
take notes during the second read. And so I enjoyed it a lot, but I don't think it would be one of my top 3 anymore. So I went back to one of our previous videos and I figured out what our ranking was, because for a while it was like super convoluted, like I think this was our favorite and how we ranked it and stuff.
Yep.
And so I figured out the ranking here right now and it's pretty much just in the like publication order, although there are a couple that are kind of flip-flopped, because really up to this point in the series, I feel like the series just does get progressively better and better and better and better with each book. And so at number 8, we have Stormfront. At number 7, we have Grave Peril. At number 6, we have Full Moon. At number 5, we have Summer Night. 4 is Blood Rights. 3 is Death Masks. 2 is Dead Beat. And 1 is Proven Guilty. So where do you think White Knight falls on this? What 2 books does it go between?
I would probably, honestly, for me, put it between, I want to say between Deadbeat and Death Masks.
Yeah. I was
maybe even between Proven Guilty and Deadbeat. But
really?
I would probably, because I mean, like I said, like I really got more out of it, and it was really, really good. But I don't know if I could truly say that, but that was my first thought, and I was like, probably between Deadbeat and Death Masks.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. So it'll go Proven Guilty, Deadbeat, White Knight, and then Death Masks.
Yes.
Sweet. I'm excited for us to get to the end of the whole series and
then see our final ranking.
Yes. Yeah, I think that'll be fun.
That will be cool.
So let's talk about the magic here. What was your favorite bit of new magic? Because we got a lot of it. We got a lot of new magic in this book.
So I've thought about this question quite a bit actually in the last day or two. And I think from my perspective, when Elaine, performs Reiki on Harry, I know that scene is not like, oh, so crazy, but in all the books, Harry's like, no, magic is not even ahead of modern medicine when it comes to healing.
Right.
And she was talking about how she's like, I haven't figured out how to heal like organ wounds, or like if you get a gut shot, like she can't do that, but she can do like cuts and bruises and bumps. And I'm like, the potential for that is like wild. Like I have a feeling that will come back, and like we'll see, something of that magnitude in future books. Cause I was like, healing, you don't ever see healing magic in the Dresden Files.
Right.
Like not one time. And so that was super
outside
cool.
of like the Fae or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like mortal, magic. Right. And so that was super cool. And then like all of Elaine's magic was cool. you know,
Yeah, dude, she
like
had so much cool shit.
lots of cool stuff. You know, she's like she's like Harry in her power and her know-how, maybe a little bit more subtle with it. And but so it's cool, you know, they're
Yeah,
separate. And so like here comes Elaine that figured out her own way to do all the same shit that Harry can do, but it's I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, because she's got you know, while Harry is like you know, fire damage and like force damage,
Yep.
like kinetic energy kind of stuff. She's got like all this electricity that she
Yep.
commands. And she's got all these like really cool tools and stuff. And she also has Harry was talking about at some point where she her form of defense is like an enhanced awareness instead of like a shield.
Yeah.
She's got like this awareness that she can kind of extend and know like, oh, I need to avoid that hallway or whatever. And so I thought that that was kind of an interesting take on defense that we haven't seen a whole
Yeah.
lot yet. Oh yeah, and so then she's got Fulminares,
Yep.
which was so cool. It was probably like my favorite spell in this book.
The scene where Harry snaps her out of getting killed by Priscilla, and all you hear is Fluminares, and the whole
Yeah,
side of the building
the
blows out. I
whole
was like, it's
yeah,
so badass.
yeah, dude, it's so cool because I think he just sees like a green light or something, and the whole thing just explodes,
Yeah.
and the vampire goes flying out to
Yep.
the parking lot,
Yeah. Super
and
cool.
she's just standing there like with the shower curtain like
And her
wrapped
wrist
around
is like
her.
cut open and shit,
Yeah,
like she's bleeding. And she still kicked his ass.
yeah, dude, it was fantastic. Oh, and then and so like I said, she's got all those cool gadgets, and this is something that I hadn't really thought about like magic wise until she brought it up. But she's got basically what amounts to a magical taser, and it's got like this stored lightning in it. And Harry's like, "Oh, do you have to like, you know, recharge it in a lightning storm?" And she's like, "No, I just plug it into the wall."
Well, no, so yes, Harry says, "How do you charge that thing?" And Elaine goes, "Well, a lightning storm, or you could just plug it into the wall."
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, "Yeah," but
Yeah,
that is cool.
because I think that's a brilliant idea, because even though they can't like interact with most technology, like they can certainly use it in that kind of way to like
Yep.
charge something up. I thought that was brilliant. And then let's
We get to
see.
see some more of Little Chicago in action.
Oh yeah, so Harry breaks off a piece of paint from the car,
Yep.
and he's able to use that in a tracking spell. And then when he goes into Little Chicago, he's able to get like a virtual reality, like watching them,
Yep.
and follow them through the spirit world. And I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Me too.
I was kind of wondering if Jim Butcher like maybe got rid of Little Chicago in the books because he was starting to see that it's just going to be like way overpowered. Because you know, if Harry can go anywhere and spy on anybody from
For
the spirit
sure.
world,
Yep.
like it leaves him a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wonder if Jim Butcher was like, okay, yeah, I just got to axe that.
For sure. It would make sense because I think you're absolutely right. I think it would make his world a lot, or there'd
Easier.
be less challenges, right? He
Yeah,
could just do anything. And oh, you lost your daughter. Okay, she's right here.
right, exactly. We get a lot of cool Lashiel stuff.
Yeah.
We see her interpreting stuff for Harry in ancient Etruscan and in the Ghoul
Cool
language.
speak. Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool. Matter of fact, you got that behind you. Why don't you show people the
Yeah.
picture behind you? It's
Yep.
so cool. I've never seen this fan art before.
Yeah.
That's
I the second I
awesome.
saw it, I was like, that's got to be it, because
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite scenes where you know Harry describes like her like wrapping the sensation of her like wrapping
Yeah.
around him and whispering in his ear and all this stuff. I was like, dude, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. That was an awesome scene. Um, and so yeah, I loved all that stuff, especially because it makes everyone around him really nervous, like how is he
Yeah.
able to speak Ghoul? And so those were really cool. And then she does like this virtual reality thing when he goes into Thomas's
Hmm.
apartment. He's like, take a snapshot, and she like, when he gets back to his apartment, she's able to like bring the whole thing up like 3D surround. And then she does it for the Abby's or Anna's
Yep.
hotel or whatever, and she shows him all the people that were there. Um, and then we see something really interesting that I guess I'm not surprised that he put it in the books, but it's just a really cool thing to add in is Abby's prescient ability, because this isn't like I say a word and cast a spell kind of magic. It's just like this, supernatural ability that she's like born with.
Yep.
And she's able to see like multiple futures and kind of judge which is the most likely to happen.
Yep.
And so I thought I really liked that. Um, and then what'd you think about Mouse waking everybody in the building up?
Oh yeah, dude, that was so cool. I love, all mouse
Yeah.
content, but that just goes to show, we kind of don't know a whole lot about temple dogs,
Yeah.
especially now, at this
Yeah.
book we don't.
Right.
Um, and so it's cool to see, I really feel like that he is a being of like unparalleled magical power. Like
Yeah.
I really feel like he's incredibly powerful in ways, not big ways, but like in his own
Yeah.
ways. And so yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And Harry was even saying, what was he saying? Like, I used to live next to some sort of alarm or tornado warning alarm.
Yeah.
And he's
Yep.
like, that's what this was like.
Yeah, and he was saying that like every bark was like shooting electricity through his like skin, and like I
Yeah.
was like, ah, that's so cool.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, he's a special dog. Um, and then the last one I have for magic here was Ramirez's stuff.
Oh yeah.
He had like this that shield that he brings up that when bullets come through it like turns them basically into grains of
Yep.
sand and like completely mitigates their damage. And I love the way that Jim Butcher, even though it's magic and the rules aren't necessarily like explicitly explained to us, he still like brings physics into it.
Yep.
And he's like, the shield, instead of stopping it with brute force, it like turned the bullet speed back on itself
And
and
destroyed.
shredded it
Yeah.
as it goes
Yeah.
through. And so I really love when he does stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Ramirez just has like these green blasts that he just throws at him and disintegrates like any foe.
Yep. Quote unquote, the ghoul had a hole in his chest the size of a garbage can.
Oh yeah.
That's from Harry talking about Ramirez's blasts.
That's great. Yeah, I loved everything Ramirez was throwing around. I
Yeah.
was like, dude, he is like he's kind of a heavyweight. Like
Yes.
he's kind of a, I don't know what it would be like to see Ramirez and Harry going toe to toe, but
Yeah.
like Ramirez is no slouch.
Yeah, definitely not. And he's got like super unique ways of using magic that we don't see. Like even
Yeah.
his, you know, disintegration rays, you'll learn about that later, but it's very unique and very special, and it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, exactly. He just, he thinks about things in a different way. Like, cause we see Harry like approach everything with brute strength. Like
Yep.
I'm going to hit him like with a big,
Yeah.
massive hit or like a flaming fireball or something.
Yep.
And Ramirez is just very like smart about the way that he uses his magic
Yep.
to, disrupt other people's magic and stuff. And I just love like entropy and water magic. Like, I don't think we've seen too much of it this early in the series. But later on, we get to see some. And entropy also has to do with like curses and stuff.
Yep.
And so those are always like really interesting because they're kind of like they're kind of like the weird side of magic, I feel like.
Yeah.
The part that not everybody really knows about.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about our characters and what they go through this book. Who is your favorite character to follow in this book?
Molly,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. I think that this book like really sets the stage for her, like, I don't
As
want
a
to say
character.
as a character, and like learning about, why to do magic instead of like when,
Yeah.
basically, and so I think that was really big, and Harry's way of kind of like subtly showing, with the beads around her wrists,
Yeah.
like not telling her until she figured it out, I thought was really cool, because she had to come to the realization, like,
On
like,
her own.
I don't want to be a part of this, but I have to because it's the right thing. And he's like, that's it, kid, you got it. I was like,
Yeah.
that's super cool.
And that was such a great moment, because once she realizes it, it says that like whatever it was, like 10 or 12 beads just went
Exploded.
flying
Yeah,
across the
exactly.
room.
And that
Yeah.
was it the whole time. It was like waiting for that. And he's like, the beads were never going to move. Like, you were
Yeah.
never going to be able to get all those. I rigged it so you wouldn't.
Right.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah. He says it was never about being strong, Molly. The beads were never going to move. Being strong doesn't get you through. Being smart does. And I think that that's such a like that's such an important part of like her character growth, like that quote right there,
Yeah.
because like she is still a teenage girl, and
Yes.
she still thinks that she is like hot shit.
Yep.
With all this magic. And like, I've learned a bit. I've been studying for a year. Like, I know what to do now. And Harry's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And that's when she sneaks into the back seat of his car.
Oh, yep.
And she's cloaked. Dude, this is one of my favorite scenes in the
Yes.
book.
Yes.
And Harry's got this, he's like, you think you know what's best for you? All right. And he like gets this little fireball, and he's just drifting it closer and closer. And he just gets like really like calm and collected and scary.
He's like,
and
stop it.
He's like, stop it. He's
Yeah.
like, if you're ready for what comes next, then stop the fireball.
Yeah, dude.
And she's like freaking out, and like it gets a little closer. It's like starting to like get really hot. And she's like, oh my God, like she realizes like,
Yeah.
I can't stop it.
Yep.
And Harry even says something like, burns teach you well, or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lesson to be learned from getting a burn,
Yeah.
And so I really love that whole thing, because while it was brutal, he even explains to Murphy later, he's like, because Murphy's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, you don't understand. If she messes up at any time, not only is it her ass, but it's also mine. We will both be killed. Like, we will both be ended if she does not get in line. And he's like, I'm just trying to like keep knocking her down a peg until she finally learns and is able to handle her magic. Once she gets to a point where she can handle her magic, then I won't have to keep humbling her.
Yeah.
But right now she's getting in her own way.
Yep.
And, I have to do this until she gets to the point where she knows more. Oh, and then the other moment that I really liked was at the very beginning. She sneaks into that apartment, and she thinks she's being all sneaky, and then Murphy like takes her out with like a judo kick, and like, gets her arm behind her and all this stuff. And she's like, how did you she's like, how did you like find me or whatever? And they're like, oh, you're perfume, or I heard of floorboard creek, or all these different things.
Yeah, they go back and forth like 6 times. Harry's like just like matter of fact, just back and forth. Murphy's your perfume, and Harry's like, I heard your tongue piercing, click on your teeth.
Yeah.
And then she's like this, and that was cool.
I love that. And I loved how he basically like nods to Murphy. He's like, act like you're gonna
Yep.
arrest her. And so she starts like reading her rights. I went past.
Yeah,
it.
that's a quotable moment.
Yeah. And and so she's reading her the rights and everything. And Molly was like, well, like I didn't think that, it was going to be a big deal. Like I wasn't touching anything. And Murphy kind of goes into this thing where she's like, you don't understand like crime scene procedure like Harry does. Like even if it is ruled a suicide, like there's all these reasons why finding DNA on the crime scene could be, a big deal for you and us. It could get us both in trouble. And if it's ruled a murder and your DNA is found at a crime scene, like that's when things are really, really fucked.
Yep.
And so I love that really like teachable moment. And then, but I think maybe before that or after, whenever she's getting arrested, Murphy's got her on the ground and Harry's like, Murphy, how long do you think she'll go away for? And Murphy's like, I don't know, like 30 to 60 days. And he turns to Molly and he's like, see there? No big deal. See you in a month or 3. Oh, beat someone up on the first day. Supposed to save you a lot of trouble.
Yep.
I love that. All right, so let's talk about Harry, because his growth is kind of tied with Molly's. So Murphy mentions at some point in this book that she is seeing some anger issues in Harry, and we get that whole scene in the desert in New Mexico where he like goes ape shit on the ghouls.
Yep.
And then we get so when that whole like ball of fire thing happens with Molly, he turns around and like slags a trash can. Then there's also a moment where, they're leaving the Order of the Cauldron place and he gets like really upset by something. I think it's something Murphy says or something. He gets really pissed. And so he has to like ground all his energy into the earth. And that's when her car explodes.
Yeah.
And so, he's got all this like anger issues, and he's never like, he's always kind of had somewhat of a temper, but mostly aimed at the bad guys.
And mostly it was more like passion than like true anger, than like the very like dark and hateful anger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, she mentions that that all this is kind of come up, and he starts wondering if it's around the time that he picked up the coin for Lashiel. And so then he starts talking to Lashiel, and she's like, you're much easier to talk to when you're sleeping, my host. And so it's like, yeah, she's whispering stuff to him at night. And so this is kind of this whole realization of his. Did you see any kind of like resolution to like this whole anger thing by the end of the book, or do you think that's something that he'll be working on for a couple books? Because I honestly forget.
Yeah, I don't think there was a solid resolution. I like per se. I think that, at least I assume and I feel that like when Lashiel sacrificed herself to save Harry, that probably was maybe she's gonna quit whispering, right? And so that would probably help. But there was no like definitive like moment where he's like, oh my God, I feel so much better, or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably like his biggest character growth moment in this book. There wasn't too many other things where it was like, oh, this is like a turning point for Harry or anything. But Harry does talk to Murphy about he was telling her about Molly when they were having that conversation about Molly.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can't do anything with magic that you don't believe in. And then she's like, well, did you believe that it was the right thing to do to slag that trash can in front of, the Starbucks or whatever
and
that
caused
was.
thousands of dollars of damage to all these places.
Yeah. And he's like, well, oh, well, that's all owned by Marcone. And she's like, the baristas don't know that. Like the people working in these little shops, they all have to deal with the
Yep.
damages, and like that affects their real life. Like
And now
they're
they
not.
can't work. They can't pay their bills because their
Yeah.
place is closed.
Yeah. And so I thought that was a really good scene because, it's, I feel like it's really easy to kind of, even for us as the readers, to kind of take these platitudes from Harry that are like, oh, you can't do anything with magic that you don't believe in. But then not examining Harry and see what he does with magic. Because Murphy makes a good point.
Yeah.
She's
Yep.
like, when you burnt that trash can and caused all that damage, like if what you're saying is true, you truly believe that was the right thing to do in that moment. And so it kind of puts a new lens
Yeah.
on all the stuff that Harry does, and looking at some of the things that he does with magic. And it's like, oh wow, so like if that's true, then he really believes that's an okay thing to do. So I just thought I thought that was a cool conversation. It was a
Yep.
cool kind of like come to Jesus moment for
Yeah.
Harry, I feel
Yep.
like.
A little eye opener.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Marcone. Dude,
Marcone.
Marcone in this book was so sick. He was so awesome. He's got a seat on the Accords now.
Yep.
He's backed by Harry, Laura, and Vadarung. I think this is the first time that we see Vadarung. We don't know too much about him yet, but
Well,
I think,
we don't actually see him. We just hear his
well,
name,
yeah, we
right?
just hear his
Okay.
name.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see him sometime in the next couple
Yep.
books. And he's a really important figure later on. I have here, Murphy's worried about Marcone gaining more power, but Harry is worried about Laura making plays for power. He says that Marcone is at least the devil that we know, and he may be able to work with him more than he can with someone like Laura, who is more or less unpredictable, calculated but unpredictable. And so what do you think about this whole, just kind of this whole relationship between Harry and Marcone? They're frenemies, but they also hate each other. But Harry
I
kind of knows that he's like the best thing they got.
Yep. Yep. So I think Frenemies is by far the most textbook you could get
Yeah.
with them for sure. And I think that they both have especially Marcone of Harry. I think Marcone's got an especially large like maybe kind of respect for his
Yeah.
power, like for instance, like when they get to the Velvet Room and Harry drops his name, and she's like, oh, Mr. Dresden, you're the last of our platinum
Yeah.
members to join. And then Marcone explains, like, I'm just hoping that you wouldn't want to burn my stuff if you're feeling like a sultan, if you're getting treated like the king.
Yeah.
And
Good point.
so like with that, he's very, they both know how truly like powerful each other could be, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so cool for them to like have to like kind of like,
Deal with each other.
and this is why, let's make it happen. And like some of the terms aren't agreeable, Harry's like, oh, and then Marcone, back and forth, like they both have these things that they don't like or that they like. And so it causes like this super wild like interaction. And I guess the culmination of that is really cool.
Yeah. Man, Marcone is just such a great character, because I think there's real possibility for a redemption arc, but there's also an equal opportunity for him to go pure evil
Yeah.
and just like destroy everything, because Marcone believes in like really specific things. Like he, even with the whole thing with the little girl and Harry, like basically saying like, hey, I know your secret, Marcone kind of gives him the, like, if you do anything, like, I will have no compunctions about killing you. Like, if you tell anybody, like, I will hurt everyone you know
Yeah.
in order to keep this secret. And so he doesn't have any like compunctions about hurting people, yet at the same time he's got like this side to him. You know, Harry mentions that when he did the soul gaze with him a long time ago, that he saw that Marcone felt such guilt over this girl
Yeah.
getting shot, that that is what pushes him to be strong and to turn Chicago into a safer place for pedestrian people. Like,
Yep.
even though he is running like this criminal empire, he is making it so that less innocent people get hurt.
Yeah.
And, you know, if a criminal wants to get in on the criminal empire, then, you know, that's their own decision. But for the people just walking in the park, he's trying to make them a little
Yes.
safer.
Yep.
And I love that so much about him. He's easily, yeah, I would say Marcone is probably my second favorite character next to Harry.
Yeah.
I think, you know, in a series full of characters with a lot of depth and a lot of personality, I think that Marcone is one of the ones that has the most
Yeah.
depth. I feel like, for me personally. Oh yeah. So
I
okay.
was just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we got to talk about Marcone's got a girlfriend.
Yeah. Yep. I literally was about to say the same thing.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm sure, you know, when I first read it, I'm sure I was surprised. I kind of don't feel like, you know, they may have some like feelings for each other, but I just feel like they're way more business than anything
Yeah.
else, you know?
Yeah, it's
But
true.
it was interesting to see, like when Harry walked in and like Marcone's got a shirt and button, and you know how Demeter's sitting there, and he's like, man,
Yeah.
if I would have came in, well, oh, I wish I knew what he said. There was that
Oh.
line right there. Oh man, that's gonna bother me.
It was something
But he
like
says something hilarious. He's like, if
something
I,
about Les Mis or something, or some
yeah,
French.
yep, I know,
Dang it, it's gonna kill me.
I know, it's okay. We'll figure it out at some point. But yeah, he says something that cracked me up, and I don't
Yeah,
even know what it means, but
I
like,
know. Right?
it was super funny.
There's so many times like that in these books where he'll use like a French word or something, and we'll have no idea what it means, but we totally like
Yeah,
understand.
yep, exactly.
I love those moments.
Yeah, so I don't know, it was
Um,
cool. And you know, yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't have a whole lot more on it. What did you think of it?
so I think it's weird. It's you know, because you remember her from the first book, right?
I
And she was part of that whole like sex cult
Oh yeah,
thing that
yeah, and the
the
third eye drug and
sorcerer, yeah,
whatnot. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's interesting, you know, it makes me wonder what she has planned, because I wonder if she is much deeper and much smarter than we're giving her credit for, or like
Yeah.
the average reader is.
Yep.
Because, you know, Harry asks her like, how can you, you know, love Marcone or whatever after everything he did? And she basically just tells him like, you know, love and hate are feelings that are not too far
Yeah.
removed. But I wonder, and I wonder if Marcone also knows this, but I wonder if she is trying to get in with him so that she can betray him at a crucial moment.
Mm.
Like further down the
Yep.
line, Marcone goes bad, and Harry is able to use her to finally, like, you know, give Marcone the can.
Yep. That wouldn't surprise me. The scene where Harry goes to talk to her at the Velvet Club, and you know, he wants to soul gaze her, and he asks her, he's like, so, you know, I need to know really who you are. And she's like just dead, you know, I'm a like borderline psychotic, like
Yeah.
selfish, you know, this and this and this, which is
Yeah.
all, you know, true traits, and she accepts it and knows it. And so
Yeah.
like that would not surprise me if she had another agenda.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like she's got the patience and like kind of the end per se, because it's a soft spot for Marcone, right? Because
Yeah.
he killed her daughter, and so yeah, the potential for that is real.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. So far at Battleground, I don't think we've seen her again
Mm-mm.
since this.
Yeah.
So I'm interested as to when she'll pop back up. I think Jim Butcher probably has to put her in either the next book or the one after that to keep us like reminded of who she is and why she might be important and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's got to put her in soon, I would think. Otherwise, people would just forget about her.
Yep.
All right, let's go on to Murphy. Not much to say about her
Yeah.
in this book, but she has been demoted because of the events of Proven Guilty, because she went into the Fae with Harry, and like 48 hours or whatever went by while they were there, while she was on like a crucial assignment for work. And so they demoted her from lieutenant to sergeant. And that's pretty much all I got for her. Did you remember anything from this book with Murph?
No, she's just same old Murph.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing, no crazy growth spurts or anything like that.
Yeah. What do you think about Elaine, just in general?
So I like her character, and it's cool to see like this piece of Harry, right? Growing up,
From the
she was
past, yeah.
from the past, his first everything, and so seeing the softness that they have for each other, that they had back then come into play today is interesting. They have an interesting relationship, but
Right.
we don't get a whole lot of Elaine, dude.
I know.
Like there's not a ton of her, and so it's hard to like really dedicate yourself to like falling in love with her, because
Yeah.
we don't see it. But I think that I like them working together. I think that they make a really good team.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think that this is one of the very few problems that I have with what Jim's done in this series. There's so like few and far between like any complaints that I have, but
yeah,
Elaine is one of them, because I think that Elaine is supposed to be this person that we really like, this person that we really understand as far as like Harry and their relationship,
yeah,
and we're maybe not necessarily supposed to be like rooting for them to get back together, but I feel like we're supposed to feel more emotion than we do when she's around. And like you said, like she's just not like, I just don't really feel anything for her, like
yeah,
at all, because just the lack of information that we get about her. And I feel like there's characters that are mysterious and interesting, like the gatekeeper or whatever.
yeah,
But Elaine is like mysterious and uninteresting.
mm,
And so there's just not like the books could do with more of her.
yeah,
And I understand why Jim Butcher is trying to only put her in like every now and then, because she's supposed to be like this big thing that like pops up every few books.
yep,
But I just don't feel it. I just
yeah,
don't really feel anything for that character.
yeah,
We do get an interesting thing about her in this book, though. The White Court ended up tracking her down, because we see her in Summer Night, and Harry's like, you got to go to the White Court and tell him you're a wizard. And
you mean the White Council?
or yeah, the White
Okay.
Council.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to go to the White Council and show them you're a wizard, and do their trials or whatever. And she's like, I am not joining that group. And so then in this book, we find out that at some point Ramirez had caught up to her, and he put her through all these tests, and she like purposely flunked them.
Yeah.
She like purposely like, just kind of threw all the challenges and the tests and stuff, just to, get the council
Yep.
to leave her alone, which is really smart.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
like
a good move.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
good move. I thought
good.
the same thing.
Good way to hide from the council.
Yep, because you're still being up and honest. Well, you're not like running from them basically, because that's what she's been doing forever.
Yeah, like she's at least now they know she exists.
And know that she's not powerful enough to do major harm, which again
Right.
isn't true, but like they don't know
Yeah.
that. They don't even need to know that.
Yeah. And I think the other thing they don't know is that she was Dumorn's other
Yeah.
apprentice.
Yep, they don't. Yeah.
So she's hiding that too.
And Harry, even in this book, tries to get her. He's like, you need to come with me. Like, I will back you. And she's like, no. Like,
Yeah.
I've been running from that my whole life. It's behind me. I don't want to deal with it. Stop asking.
100%. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Lashiel.
Yes.
Dude.
I'm so excited to talk about Lashiel, dude.
Oh, let's go. What do you have?
Yeah, she let me preface this thought a little bit. So the thought of having an entity, inside of your head is pretty wild. Like there's a lot of potential there to go any way.
Yeah.
And so seeing Lashiel, and I think her like Lashiel the seductress, right? Or the whisperer or something.
The temptress and seductress.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly. And so and Harry's well aware of this. Like he knows, like, if I give her an inch, she'll take a mile. Like I cannot do this. But seeing them interact from just when like she tricked him into thinking whatever that girl's name was and whatnot.
Oh yeah, Sheila.
Sheila, yeah.
Yeah.
From there to now, like seeing their interactions, and I don't know, it was just cool to see because like she is this, being of like crazy power. She's immutable. She cannot be swayed.
Ancient,
exactly. But this imprint is different, right? She's imprinted into his head, and Harry's not perfect and minds change. And so seeing like Harry kind of break down those barriers and like making her realize like, I am not, I don't have to be Lashiel, or I don't have to be the whole Lashiel, was just so cool. And the ending, dude, when she sacrificed herself, oh my God.
Oh man.
And my favorite part of all of it though is when, her sigil is gone. He's in his lab with Bob, and Bob he tells him like, she took a bullet for you, like she took a psychic bullet, and Harry starts crying, and I was like, dude, that right there is so powerful. Like, it just
because like even though like I don't know if he like hated Lashiel, but he was so on guard.
Yeah.
And he couldn't allow himself to, enjoy anything she offered, meaning like even like companionship or like enjoy like talking to her. Like he always had to be on guard.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the past year or so, like he realized like she is different now than when she first came to me. I know she is.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to save her, and he's trying to like, I know that you can be different. Like, I know that you don't have to be like this evil entity that is trying to get me to pick up this coin and do evil things. Like, I know that you can be your own person because you're imprinted on me, which is a malleable surface. And he makes a great analogy of, doesn't he say something like, I could be totally wrong. Maybe it's not even in this book, but I'm pretty sure he says something about the real Lashiel being as immutable as the coin itself. Like it's just this hard object that you can't change. And Lashiel is more of like a footprint in mud or something, a footprint in dough. And he's the dough, and he's changing. So as the dough or as the mud changes, the footprint does as well. And so I really love that analogy. And by the end, I think it's one of those things where you don't really realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah, definitely.
Because after she's gone, like you said, he kind of breaks down, and even Bob is like, Harry, are you okay? And he's like, I gotta go. And he like goes into the living room. And like one of my favorite scenes is he sits down in the living room, and she showed him how to play that music earlier on in the book. And that's when he thinks like, if if something is truly evil, could it create something of like life and beauty,
Yep.
like such as this music? And so then he sits down at the end of the book and he goes to play his guitar, and like it's not perfect, but it's still there. Like
Yeah.
everything that she helped him learn in his head is still there on the guitar. And he hears like this very faint whisper in the back of his brain that says, anything I can, my host.
Yeah.
And by that point, I'm just like
Yep.
tearing up. I'm
Yep.
like sobbing. I'm just like, oh my God, like it's so sad. I would have loved to see, I would have loved to have seen her like have some sort of like redemptive arc and be like this companion
Yeah. It'd be
inside
so cool.
Harry that like helps him throughout the next few
Yep.
books. But yeah, I thought Lashiel had a really, really fantastic little arc over the past couple
Yes.
books. What about Ramirez?
I love Ramirez. I think that maybe that's probably spoilery if I say that. I won't say that. But yeah, I love his character. You know, he's young and he's bold and eager and,
Yeah,
you know, confident, and which are all awesome traits for somebody like him. And I love their little like, you know, their talks, right? Like they're
yeah,
always just like either giving shit, taking shit, back back and forth. And there was this cool scene like they were done talking, right? And he says, Maya con Dios, which is like, and then Harry's like happy trails, like just these cool, like, I don't know
yeah,
why I like that, but it's like they vibe off each other really well. And you can
yeah,
tell that like they're best buds, you know, they're really good
yeah.
friends and stuff. Um, and yeah, I love his attitude, and he's very powerful. And yeah, I probably get the most humorous content out of him and Harry
Out of
together.
Ramirez,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And even, you know, touching on the relationship between the two of them, that scene where he's in the hospital at the end of the book, Harry, I forget exactly what was said back and forth, but Ramirez was basically like, you need to tell me like what's going on.
Yeah.
And Harry basically says, I don't have anything to say to the council. And Ramirez is like, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about me, man. You
Yeah.
need to trust
Yeah.
me as a person, as your friend.
Yep.
And they just had like this amazing talk where, you know, Ramirez asked a couple questions, and the whole book, Harry's been super dodgy about like how
Yeah.
he knows the White Court and all these other things. Um, and even since like New Mexico, there had been these things that had come up.
Yep.
And you know, Ramirez asks a couple questions and Harry gives him fairly honest answers for the most part. And then Ramirez is like, was that so hard?
Yeah.
And Harry has this moment where he's like, you know, it really wasn't, like it really
Yep.
wasn't that hard to trust Ramirez. And I just thought that was such a great moment between the two of them.
For sure. And another, just adding to that, at the end, Harry says, well, you know, should I go tell the Merlin? And
Yeah,
he's like, no,
hell
don't. He
no.
hates you. Like, absolutely
Yeah.
not. And that just goes to show where he's, you know, he's
Yeah.
separating himself from the council, just
Yeah. He's
like you said,
savvy.
just to be a friend and
Yeah,
to be there.
for sure. Yeah. But I feel like a little bit of suspicion does kind of linger with Ramirez.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
earlier in the book, you know, he's pretty suspicious. He's like, dude, like, how do you know how to speak Ghoul? And
Yeah.
Harry's like, I'm not gonna tell you. And I don't think Harry even tells him at the end there.
Mm-mm.
But he's like, dude, how are you speaking Ghoul? Like, how are you speaking ancient Etruscan, which is the
Yeah.
White Court language? And of course, by Harry speaking their language, now Ramirez thinks that Harry is in even
Yeah.
deeper with the White Court. Like he's so deep in with them that he knows their language. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? And so I can see where all this like suspicion is coming from. And I've always kind of been on the side of like, you know, some of the other people on the outside, like being like, Harry, like, I don't really trust you. Like, you don't tell us anything. And I'm kind of like, yeah, Harry doesn't. Like, Harry needs to trust more people, and he needs to like come
Yeah.
clean
Yep.
with more people. And so, I think that's something that gets Harry into a lot of trouble.
For sure.
I loved this part with Ramirez and Laura where
Oh
they
yeah.
soul
Lara,
gazed.
yeah.
Yeah. And Laura's like, if you were trying to dissuade me, like, you haven't. And he's like, I was trying to dissuade myself.
Yeah. And she's like,
And
very wise.
yeah,
Very
very
wise.
wise. And I maybe even right before the soul gaze happened, he like pulled out a knife and like put it up to her throat, and he just says, I am not food.
Yes.
And it's just, oh dude, it's so badass.
I know. And speaking
It's
of that
so
scene,
cool.
we find out that Ramirez is in fact a virgin.
Yeah, after
And
all
he's
this
been
tough talk.
dude, all this chick talk, and he's a virgin.
Oh my god, I love that so much. And even like Harry's teasing him about it. He's like, no, she's lying.
Yeah.
She's evil and she's lying.
Yep. Yeah, that's
I love
good.
that. Speaking of the vampire herself, let's talk about Lara in this book. Oh my god, what'd you think?
She is probably one of the most like intriguing characters, and not just because she's a vampire, but because of the way that she's like Marcone,
Yeah.
she's extremely business savvy. She's always 10 steps ahead of most people, and I think
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why it makes her so interesting. But I've like always enjoyed Harry and Lara together.
Yeah.
Just the way that, and that's just another example of like mutual respect and like
Yeah.
understanding each other's powers and weaknesses and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty wild. We get to see a lot about kind of the politics in the White Court, which is interesting. How she, cat's paws, stuff like that. She's
Yeah.
using minions, basically using her father to run the White Court, so
Yeah.
as to not lose face and whatnot, which is super interesting. And
I love the thing Marcone said at the end there, where he's like, and King Wraith, who is obviously in charge
yeah,
of the White Court.
yep, for sure. Yeah, and then she this was after the deeps. Yeah, she says that she loves peace, and that she will lead everyone into a time of untold amounts of peace. She will kill them with peace. Like, she's basically telling Harry, like,
Yeah.
listen, like, I can turn it around on you, like
Yeah.
I still hold more power
Right.
than people think,
Yeah.
which is scary. She's a scary character.
She is, because everything she does is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So if you have some random faction attacking you, you have no idea if that's Laura's plan or
Yep.
Lara's plan or not.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool. She it kind of gets revealed, what she was doing behind the scenes in this book. She had convinced Scabies and Malvora to kill all of these, people in the magical community, because she knew that Harry would then come after them and challenge them and then take them off the board for her.
Yeah.
And so it brings a whole new meaning to what Lara says at the end, where she says, you are the most marvelous weapon I have ever wielded.
Yeah.
Holy shit,
I know,
dude.
I know.
She literally killed like half of the magical community in Chicago in order to get Harry to kill the other two guys that she wanted off the board.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. Like, that is some like mastermind shit.
She definitely, mastermind's a great word to describe her, dude.
Oh man. It was so good. But yeah, I mean, what a great character.
Yep.
And this is really the beginning of where we start seeing her come up more and more as a character.
And she gets exponentially more. There's so much more depth that comes with her.
Yeah. And we see her like we see her do a lot more like hand-to-hand fighting, like with swords and stuff.
She's
and
like a ninja, dude.
ninja, dude. Oh yeah, she's an awesome badass character.
Yep.
But I think really the only thing we've really seen up to this point was in maybe Blood Rights, where she's on the set of the porn studio. And then this is like, I if I remember correctly, this is like the first time we really see her like fully embodied as Lara Wraith.
Yeah.
So yeah, great character. All right, let's go. Do you have any other characters from this book that you want to shout out before we move on?
Other than Mouse, I mean, we already kind of talked about that moment there. And you know, like I would shout out the Ordo, you know, the people that survived,
Yeah.
basically. You know, they seem cool, and like you said, they're the foundation of the Paranet now, which is pretty badass.
Yeah. Also Thomas, I guess.
Oh yeah.
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 He
Definitely.
yeah. He was hiding so much stuff from Harry, and Harry thought that he was like feasting on all the people of Chicago. Turns out he's just running a salon.
Yeah. He put himself through cosmetology school and started practicing hair care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. I remember the first time reading that was pretty surprising. And I was also like, what a genius way to like do what he needs to do, right? Exactly, because he's, you know, he explains it to Harry like, it's spread out, and you know, I don't take very much, and everything's fine and safe, which is good.
Yeah, that's cool. I also loved the mystery revolving around him, where throughout the book we're seeing pictures of this guy in like a gray cloak, and we're seeing like they called him like the tall handsome man with black hair.
Yep.
And so
and his war room, you know, when Harry goes and has to fake being a gay guy to get out of it, that's hilarious. But the war room was pretty
condemning.
That's exact. I was gonna say convicting, but condemning is the right word.
Like you know, you see that, you know, that he's like, you know, he's been seen with these girls that are now missing. Like, what are you supposed to think? And then it gets to the end and it turns out that he's, you know, he's got some sort of plan. He's been like protecting them from the beginning.
Yep.
And so I love that turn of events. The first time I read this, I did not see that coming.
Yeah,
at all.
Likewise.
All right, let's go into some favorite quotes here. Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I got a good one here. This is between Bob and Harry. I can't quite remember where it happens, but Bob is of course talking about Molly, and he says, "I get to meet the cookie now, right?" And Harry's like, "She's not a cookie, neither is she a biscuit, Pop-Tart, sweet tart, or any other type of pastry." and then I think shortly after, like, Harry grabs like a claw hammer and it's like, "Oh yeah, stop it," or whatever. I don't know. Bob cracks me up, dude.
I love Bob. Yeah. I love him so much. I love, dude, the claw hammer has come up so many times in the books. Yeah. Like, that's always the thing that he uses to like shut Bob up.
Yeah.
It happened in I want to say either Summer Night or Deadbeat or something. Like he always like reaches for the claw hammer.
He's got it right there in the first drawer.
I love this. I think it's from earlier on in that scene. Harry says, "Wake up, Bob, evil's afoot."
Yeah.
And Bob says, "Well, sure, boss, because it refuses to learn the metric system. Otherwise it would be up to a meter."
Yeah, dude, that's so awesome. His character brings so much just wholesome laughs to this series.
Oh my God, that cracked me up.
Here's another funny kind of word mincing one.
Yeah.
Murphy and Harry are talking about, you know, deducing what this word means, and he's like, "Order of the large cooking pot," or "Order of the cauldron," since it has more witchy connotations and all.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, he just these inner monologues, dude, when he's like,
he said something after that, like, I took a Latin correspondence course, okay? Like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
I
yep,
don't translate everything correctly. I loved the whole, so like after Harry goes to Thomas's place and the security guard sees him and he has to do the whole like
yeah,
acting
yeah,
like he's gay thing, like that all spreads to the cops and everything,
yep.
so everybody knows about it now. um and so Harry's meeting with Murphy and he says something, I forget what he says first, but she says it's to be expected with how you're gay and all now. And he's like, oh man, like does everybody know about that,
Yeah.
like what? And so then she's like, yeah, Rawlings found out from this person or whatever. And then he asked me if he should get you the soundtrack to Les Miserables or to Les Mis or to Phantom of the Opera for Christmas this year. Veretti and Pharrell got a deal on track lighting from his mother-in-law. And then Harry says, don't you people have lives? And then he kind of like gives her a sideways glance and he's like, what are you getting me? And she's like, Stallings and I found an autographed picture of Julie Newmar on eBay.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's
dude,
good.
I thought that was so funny. This is another good one. Ramirez and Harry are in the Wraith Deeps, and Ramirez says, "This is a nut house," and Harry says, "Cave, nut cave."
Yeah, yeah, yep. Just more of that Harry and Ramirez stuff.
Yeah.
In that same realm, um, this is shortly after, was it, I think Thomas cut off Vittorio's arm, right? Or was it Thomas or was it Ramirez when they were battling?
Oh, Harry. I think Harry like blasted his arm off with
Blasted
his
off
gun or
off.
something, or
And
with a
Murphy
fire.
asked him something, and he's like, the way I hear it, amputation is bad for concentration, and it certainly didn't do any favors for Vittorio's,
Yeah.
which is funny in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah. When he's shooting out of the tunnel, in like the ball that he made with Laura, he in his inner monologue thing, he's like, I don't know how fast we were going, besides very.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that
Um,
was kind of a cool scene where he really thought outside the box
oh yeah.
to like, to make this work. Cause like, I mean, it was certain death, and he
Yeah.
just pulled this idea out of a hat and went with it. And it was just, I remember that was something that surprised me. The thinking outside the box to make that happen.
Yeah, because he was saying that it was like being shot out the barrel of a gun with how smooth the sides of the tunnel were.
Yeah,
And so I love, like you just said, I love that in like a split second he was like, okay, I know those walls are smooth, like this is how I can make something to surround us that'll get us to the top when everything explodes. I love how he thinks on his feet like that.
for sure.
So then I have one more. It's not really funny or anything, or I have two more, but this one, it's not really funny or anything, but it is interesting. It's something Lashiel says, and this is the first time we really learn about what being a starborn is. Because he's often told that he was born under like the right sign, he was born on a certain day that allowed certain energies to exist and stuff, but we really haven't found out a lot about Starborn. And right before she dies, she tells him like as much as she can. She says, it is relevant because of the circumstances of your birth, because of why you were born, Harry. Your mother found the strength to escape Lord Wraith for a reason. There was a complex confluence of events, of signs and energies that would have given the child born under them the ability to wield power over outsiders. Strange, then, don't you think, that you were able to defeat one when you were only 16 years old?
Mm,
He who walks behind is an outsider, Harry, but when he came for you, you overthrew him. Listen, You have the potential to hold great power over them. You may be able to escape the power now held over you, which is interesting because then that means that what was at work at that moment was outsider power.
Yeah.
That what was holding Harry down was outsider power,
Yep.
because it was something that Vito Malvora had called upon to work, and somehow Cowell was in the mix there.
Yep.
I don't know if he's in charge of these outsiders or if he's like a pawn of theirs,
Yep.
or what, but so is Vito. They're all part of like this whole outsider thing. And so Harry is able to use his Starborn ability to remove that power pressed over him. And I just think that this is really interesting how this is like really the first time that we get any information about the Starborn.
Yep.
And even as we get to Battleground, like we still don't know a lot.
Yeah.
And so any times that this pops up, it's like, oh, okay, gotta pay attention to the Starborn stuff, because I just think it's so interesting. Like you would think that it would be explained by now, but Jim Butcher is waiting and waiting and waiting to show us that card.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be something super interesting. I think there's going to be other Starborns that we've probably met already.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I love that.
For sure. It's
And
paving the road.
Yeah, and it's too bad that he didn't ask Lashiel about that before, because he's known about the word Starborn. Like he should have like asked her like what that means. Because I bet she could have given him a lot of information.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so there's one quote that I want to make sure that we get to. And this is probably, or definitely, one of my like top 3 favorite kind of monologues throughout the series. And I think this might be like the main reason why this was my favorite book for a long time, because I think that this whole monologue is so powerful. And you know, the series kind of has this way of, you know, it's super like punchy and fun and campy and, you know, hilarious and whatnot. But then every now and then Jim Butcher comes in with these like just incredible like words of wisdom, and just words of like, even if not wisdom, just like these really big like kind of epiphanies to us as people, you know what I mean? And so I really love this quote. So it's this quote from Harry about what pain is, what types of pain there are, and how they make us grow in our own lives. And originally I was just going to read the quote, but I tried, like I was literally here getting ready for the episode, and I was trying to like recite it out loud to like make sure that I wouldn't completely like break down during it, because every time I hear it, it makes me tear up. And so every time I tried to recite it tonight, I just couldn't not cry while doing it. So I'm going to play the audio clip from the audiobook, because I don't think people want to hear me fumble through such an amazingly like beautiful quote. I think that, you know, we should get like the full experience of someone doing it the correct way. So I'll probably tear up during the clip, but you know, that's fine. I think that is just a sign that this quote is just really worth being shown on the podcast. So I'm gonna play this. It's kind of long, but it's not any more than like a couple minutes, I think. Okay, here we go.
What we hadn't known about back then was pain. Sure, we'd faced some things as children that a lot of kids don't. Sure, Justin had qualified for his Junior DeSod badge in his teaching methods for dealing with pain. We still hadn't learned, though, that growing up is all about getting hurt, and then getting over it. You hurt, you recover, you move on. Odds are pretty good you're just going to get hurt again, but each time you learn something. Each time you come out of it a little stronger, and at some point you realize that there are even more flavors of pain than coffee. There's the little empty pain of leaving something behind, graduating, taking the next step forward, walking out of something familiar and safe into the unknown. There's the big, whirling pain of life upending all of your plans and expectations. There's the sharp little pains of failure and the more obscure aches of successes that didn't give you what you thought they would. There are the vicious, stabbing pains of hopes being torn up, the sweet little pains of finding others, giving them your love and taking joy in their life as they grow and learn. There's the steady pain of empathy that you shrug off so you can stand beside a wounded friend and help them bear their burdens. And if you're very, very lucky, there are a very few blazing hot little pains you feel when you realize that you are standing in a moment of utter perfection. An instant of triumph or happiness or mirth which at the same time cannot possibly last, and yet will remain with you for life. Everyone is down on pain because they forget something important about it. Pain is for the living. Only the dead don't feel it. Pain is a part of life. Sometimes it's a big part, and sometimes it isn't, but either way, it's part of the big puzzle, the deep music, the great game. Pain does two things. It teaches you, tells you that you're alive. Then it passes away and leaves you changed. It leaves you wiser sometimes. Sometimes it leaves you stronger. Either way, pain leaves its mark, and everything important that will ever happen to you in life is going to involve it in one degree or another.
Whew.
And imagine like that right there, like when I was younger with depression or anxiety or like, issues that came on, like if I was to hear that and like sit down and really hear it, I feel like that's the kind of knowledge that people know, but they don't really know, like they don't fully get it. And that is just described so well. Yeah, I mean, that's really just astonishing.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And like that, that's like kind of life-changing
Yeah,
shit.
exactly.
Like,
That's what I'm
oh
saying.
my God.
Absolutely. I mean, that could, you know, for turn somebody away from suicide hearing something like that. I know that's a little dark, but like,
Yeah.
I've been there and it's scary, and that's something that people need to hear and need to understand, that life is pain. Like
Yeah.
there's really nothing that you're going to do that's not going to involve one of those types of pain that can come in and throw you for a loop. So
Yeah.
yeah, very well said.
And even that it's kind of like, it's kind of what you do with that pain,
Yeah,
because, it can be used in so many different ways. And I can say from experience, as I'm sure you can, that, dealing with that pain alone is never a good idea.
yeah,
Um, and, I would, if there's anybody that is watching this or hurting right now or anything, I would definitely say to reach out to friends and family, because there's kind of this platitude that someone else can help you bear the burden of whatever weight you're holding. And it's not just a saying. Like, that is
yeah,
a reality, that
yeah,
other people can help you bear your burdens and bear your pains. So
yeah,
not to bring everything down too far, but if there's anybody out there that's feeling that way, please reach out to your loved ones. But yeah, I love these moments so much, where you're just reading a fun book about a wizard in Chicago,
yeah,
and then he drops like this tear jerking, like absolute like knowledge bomb on you.
yeah,
And it's like, where the fuck did that come from?
yeah. But
And
but then
every
it's
time it's so good.
yeah, and it's so needed too. And it just goes along the lines of how Harry has kind of been feeling too, right? Like that's him talking himself through well, maybe not just talking to himself, but like that's like his experience and his knowledge. And you know, I know
Yeah.
he's not real, but like he's very real in my head, you know,
Yeah,
like
for
when
sure.
I'm listening to these books and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty astounding. So thank
It's
you, Jim Butcher.
Yeah, thank you, Jim Butcher, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of like the culmination of like these little like kind of monologues that are like this are kind of like the culmination of his life experience up
Yeah,
to that point. I feel like whenever he drops one of these, it feels very, very personal to
yeah,
Harry and
yep,
very like, you know, it's not just something he's saying, it's something that he's experienced.
yeah,
Like I think in the next book, it's either in the next book or the one after that, he's got this monologue with Molly where he talks about like what makes someone a monster and like what makes someone not a monster. And dude, that's another one where it's like, dude, that is like, that's coming straight from your lived experience with
yeah,
all the evil that you
for
deal
sure.
with, both in others and yourself.
Yep.
And oh man, it's always so good. And then right after that, there's the scene where he connects with Elaine and he goes like, Elaine, Lillian,
Yeah.
Mallory,
Yep.
I am Harry Harry
Blackstone Copperfield. Yep.
Blackstone Copperfield Dresden.
Yep.
And it's just like this monumentous like
Yes.
power surge. And it's just like, yes, like
I know. It's so
let's
good.
go.
Yep.
But I also, last thing I want to say about that quote, I love this thing where he talks about pain as like these things that hurt that come when bad things happen. But then he also talks about other pains of like the more obscure aches of successes that didn't give you what you
Yeah.
thought they would. And then where's the other one? He was saying the sweet little pains of finding others, giving them your love, and taking joy in their life as they grow and learn. And it's so interesting to describe that as a
Yeah.
pain because it is like
Yeah.
this really weird, like enjoyable kind of stab of pain. And he talks about like the pain of like being in a utterly perfect moment and
Yeah.
just trying to like sit with it. And oh dude, like it's
Yeah.
just so
It's
it's so good.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on from that, but I wanted
I'm
to share
I'm
that
glad.
because
I'm very
yeah.
glad you did. Very glad you did.
um let's talk about I think this is the last thing we got here, favorite moments and most emotional moment. That would definitely be my most emotional
Yes,
moment.
for sure.
But yeah, so what do you have any favorite moments that we haven't talked about yet?
Yep, I've got it's kind of a funny favorite moment, I should say. It's not super deep. Um this is when Harry and Molly go to the coroner's office and
Oh
are
yeah.
trying to find out some info
Yeah.
on the girl there. And so Harry's like, all right, kid, you're up. You know, I want you to see what you can get, psychic imprint. She's like, okay. And she makes the connection and just, you know, like has like an
Like
orgasm, you
a
know, like
full body orgasm.
yeah, exactly. And so that was just that whole situation, like with Butters, like, you know,
Yeah,
he's like just looks
Butters
at
is
her and
so
then just looks down
uncomfortable.
at the floor, like super. And then he's like, she's of age, right? And
Yeah.
Harry's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, I feel less leonine then, or something like that.
Yeah.
But then when Harry and Molly are leaving, you know, she's like
Yeah.
all just feeling wonderful, you know, the afterglow and just, I feel so good. And Harry looks at her and he says, heroin feels good too. And look how that turned out to your friends. And Molly's like
Oh,
just snaps
yeah.
out of it, dude. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Like, can you let the kid
Yeah,
like
that's right.
enjoy
Let
it
her
for a
enjoy your
minute?
freaking, yeah, exactly. I thought that was super funny.
I I thought it was funny when I think the first thing Butters says is, did she
Yeah.
get what I think she did?
And Harry's like, yeah.
He's like, she got something.
Yeah. 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 Where it's like, did that really just happen?
So I loved, or I guess I should say I really liked this thing in chapter 1. I thought it was super interesting because I had never really thought of the Bible this way, of how many like translations it's gone through, and like how many things used to mean something else back in like the very old language. And so he talks about he talks about the translation thing in the Bible about witches and users of magic getting confused in translation from whatever the previous language was to the New King James, or the King James Bible. And so apparently originally the Bible made a distinction between black magic and white magic, and it was like black magic that was abhorred, but white magic was okay or whatever. But King James had this thing about all magic. He hated all of it. And so he just kind of pushed all that into one word, being witchcraft, and translated it that way into the Bible. So he didn't make that distinction. And so, even, I don't know how true that is. Even if it's not true, it definitely made me think of like, oh, I wonder how many things got mistranslated. I wonder how many like, cultural distinctions there are between the old language and whenever it moved to English.
Well, and you have to think like with King James, he had the power to do that. He could change that however he wanted in any way, and nobody would bat an eye and say a word about it.
Right.
And so it's like,
because nobody else at the time knew how to read, especially not another language.
Exactly. And so definitely gets the gears turning on stuff like that. Like, what's real? No, not really what's real, but
yeah, for sure. Oh, let's talk about the New Mexico flashback.
Oh yeah,
I really want to talk about that.
Yeah, go for gold.
Oh my God, that was so cool. We get to see this encampment where they're training young wizards.
Camp Kaboom.
Camp Kaboom, and they have to take them way out in the middle of nowhere so that they can just turn like acres of sand into glass. And it's just like, that whole idea is really cool. I really wish we had gotten like a short story or something of them like training young ones. But they have these ghouls up in the mountain, and these ghouls come and take the two kids. And this is probably one of the most brutal things we've seen in the Dresden Files up to this point. I think maybe besides like Shiro dying was pretty brutal. But this was equally so. We get this whole thing where Harry and Ramirez are chasing him up into the mountains, and Harry gets there first. He goes into this cavern and just destroys this ghoul. Oh, and meanwhile, there's two back at Camp Kaboom that are basically like imprisoned, right? And so then he gets into the cave, finds these kids just destroyed. Like he said, the girl even had her like
her breasts were bitten off,
ripped out. Yeah. And the boy was like completely dead, like completely like just opened up his guts. And so what he ends up doing is beating the shit out of this ghoul, and then cutting it in half, and then like setting it on fire and dropping it down this cavern. And as it picks up speed, the air like enhances the flames and sets the whole body on fire. I was just like, whoa, man, that is some crazy shit. And then he gets back to Camp Kaboom, and even Ramirez is like, whoa, dude, like, holy shit, what's going on with you right now? And so they get back to Camp Kaboom, and he like takes a couple limbs off of one of them, and he's like, run back to your people and tell them never again. And then the other one he creates a hole in the ground. He does this on his walk back from the cave. He's just walking and he opens up a hole in the ground as he's going. He like shoots one of them into it. He brings all the sand back in like around its throat and turns it to glass. Then on his way, he gets a glass of orange juice and pours it from a red anthill all the way back to the ghoul, and these ants just follow it and crawl over this thing and are just like eating him. And oh my god, dude, it was just holy shit.
Yeah, for real.
Holy shit,
That
dude.
that whole scene, I really love the scenes, and this kind of reminds me of oh god, I'm gonna blank on the frickin' name. What's the sci-fi with the space and the alien?
Expanse.
Expanse series. So like in my head, I just call it like a battle stations moment, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the second that, he's sitting down talking with Lucio, she's explaining why he doesn't have a sword and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, like, they hear the gunfire, and it's crazy because within 3 seconds you get Harry's point of view, and then you get what Lucio's doing to like ward the area, and you get
Yeah.
Ramirez shouting in the back. And so I just love it, like when they go from just like, your normal sitting around into like instantaneous like battle stations, which is pretty cool. And so I really enjoy scenes and in any book for that matter, where it's, you get the trust and the team effort that culminates into, basically a defense against somebody else, which is
and
which is
that's
super cool.
Man, yeah. Now that you say that, I would have never thought to have compared it with The Expanse, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because they'll be sitting around, and then all of a sudden the shit'll hit the fan,
and it's like instant, they gotta go.
And like everybody, they've been working together for so long that everybody like trusts each other. They know what they need to do. They know what the other person's job is, and they know how to make all those things work together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Yep. Yeah, I really enjoy that. And then also just really quick too, right after Harry has the goal in the ground, the ants are crawling, and Ramirez says, look at what you're doing. Like, what about the kids? And Harry says, like, he feels all these eyes on him. He turns around, and all of the, the little kid wizards are like just mortified, like just like absolutely shook to their core. And Harry has this moment where he's like, he's like, wow, that was rough. And then he he shoots the ghoul and kills it to avoid that pain. And that was another one of those kind of like anger, eye-opening moments where he, I think he not understood, but he like acknowledged like that was vicious. Like that was a vicious act, even for me.
Yeah. And I think it's even it's either Ramirez or Harry that says like, I wonder what kind of lesson they'll learn from this.
Yeah, that was Ramirez. Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, will we see the fallout from that? Like, will this generation of wizards see Harry as like, I mean, everybody already sees him as like this really scary dude.
Yeah.
But like them growing up, like how will they come to view Harry?
For sure.
And so it'll be interesting to see what comes of that.
Yeah.
Dude, the whole battle at the Wraith Deeps, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like it was just written like even besides like the cool action stuff that happened, like just on a writing level, it's so fast paced, and it's almost like choppy the way that he wrote it, because that's how like combat would be like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And it was just all these like really frantic and chaotic moments that they're just barely keeping up with.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really came through in the page. I loved the mirror thing. It was either Harry or Ramirez, like one of them brought up like this mirror.
That was Harry. Yeah. So that's he transmuted. That's like the first time that we at least that I remember hearing about that. He transmuted the properties of this plane of force to become a mirror.
Oh yeah.
I remembered I wanted to mention that, so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so, and it's just another instance of him like thinking like, what can I do to not only defend myself but completely throw the enemy off?
Yeah.
Because he even says that like Vittorio, when he's like throwing his knife or whatever, he did not expect to be looking at a mirror image of himself. And
Yeah.
so it bought Harry and Ramirez like precious
Yep.
seconds in the fight. And so I love when he thinks of stuff like that. And then
For sure.
once all the ghouls come into play, Harry brings up like this wall of fire to hold them off. And Ramirez, I think he was joking, but I think he called it volcanomancy.
Yeah. Volcanomancy. Yeah.
I was like, that's a cool word for
Yep.
it. But dude, then at the last minute, Marcone shows up.
Yes. I was gonna say, when the players get to the battles, when it gets scary.
Dude, oh my God. And this is so great. I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about Marcone, is Harry has this phone call with him. And, he's like asking Marcone for something. He's like, did you get the paperwork I sent you and all this stuff? And Marcone's like, why should I do this for you? Like, even with this paper, like, why should I do this? And Harry's like trying to make all these excuses. And he's like, what do you want, Marcone? Just tell me what you want.
Yeah.
And Marcone's like, I want you to ask me. And it's just like as simple as that. He's like, I want you
to say please.
Yeah. And Harry's just like, oh my God, like, can it be that simple? And then Marcone kind of plays it up a little bit by the end of the phone call. They had done it a couple times, and he's like, now say pretty please with a cherry on top, Marcone. And Harry's like, fuck you. And hangs up the phone. I love that.
That is good.
But yeah, it's easy to forget about that phone call because you don't, at that time, you don't know exactly what they're discussing.
Yeah.
But then Marcone shows up in the Wraith Deeps with his whole entourage through a portal, and Thomas is there, and they just come in and kick ass.
Save the day.
Oh my God. It was just such a let's fucking go moment. Marcone, like at one point, like they have to split up from the main group. I think they had to go back for like Justine or something. And, Harry is kind of giving orders to everybody, and Marcone like straps a shotgun on.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh, let's go, dude. He's about to be a part of the fight.
One thing that I really like about Marcone too, is that he's not afraid to like do his part if he needs to, like really get in there and get dirty, which is cool. We see even in future books, we see a lot of that where he's willing to go out there with his guys and like kick ass.
Yeah, cool. For real, dude.
Most big boss guys are just like, no, I got people. I pay people to do that shit. I'll just stay at home. But he's like, no, I'll go fucking fight. Like, I'm not afraid.
For real, dude. Yeah, I love how, he's calculated about it. He knows when to send men in to fight for him, but he's also not afraid to like strap a shotgun on and
for sure and then
kill some ghouls.
Exactly. And another thing too, and Harry mentions this a lot, like Marcone will like say something. He's like, everybody stop. And Harry will always be like, wow, he's like that.
There's a reason people listen to him.
Exactly. He's got a very commanding presence, and he knows how to take control of a situation, which is just, he's awesome.
And like the respect that his men have for him, like in the deeps, he's like, Harry mentions like he's barking out these orders, like you go there, you do this. And people just like leap to obey. Yeah. Because they want nothing more than his approval and his like
admiration.
Like they want whatever he can give them so badly. And they just respect him. They see him as like this amazing, like basically a warlord. Like they see him like as this amazing leader. And so I love those moments whenever like you said, that moment earlier on in the book when they're all in the room, Harry goes to grab the manila folder and Hendrix like pulls out his gun, and like Murphy's about to grab her gun. He's like, stop.
Yep.
And he's just like sitting
and everybody freezes. Harry's like, I
Yeah.
froze solid. You know, it's
Yeah.
like he doesn't even have control. He just listens and obeys because it's so
Yeah.
commanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, great scene. I also wanted to mention real quick, the bad guys plunge the cave into darkness. And this is often a tactic that makes the wizards have to produce light. But all these bad guys, they always plunge places into darkness because they know when a wizard pulls up their light, all they have to do is shoot one bullet that way to the light. And you know, the wizards are sitting ducks, and Harry remarks a couple times that that this is just a natural reaction from wizards to pull up light whenever anything gets dark. That's something that'll play out in the next few books as well, especially Turncoat. Okay, so Harry kisses Laura.
Yep.
Laura. He needs a strong emotion to power his spell, and so he chooses lust.
Yes.
And man, that kiss was hot.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Passionate.
Oh man. And we see Lara probably even like honestly being into it.
Yeah.
And you know, we had Jim from Fantasy for the Ages on for that big Dresden discussion where we talked about the whole series. And you know, what he said has made me pay more attention to this. He's like, they had a lot of like flirty and romantic energy throughout the series. He's like, I wonder if they're going to be like the end game couple. And I was like, no way, not Lara and Harry. But then after this, I'm like, shit, I don't know, maybe, like,
for sure,
there's definitely some attraction there. The only other thing that I guess I want to mention is just these moments that we get with Harry and Thomas, where we see how they like trust each other implicitly, like regardless of any of the lies or, you know, stuff that was going on, like they really do trust each other. And Harry gets shot on the ice right before he goes into that flashback. He gets shot by Madrigal. And when he wakes up, he's like trying to look around to see if everybody's okay, like if everybody's safe. And all Thomas says to him is like, I got them, everybody's safe. And Harry says, my brother's word was good enough for me. And he goes back to sleep. And it's just like, he like, because anybody else, Harry would have been like, no, I want to make sure they're safe.
Exactly.
But like, you know, the trust that they have with each other, Harry's just like, if he says it's so, then, you know,
which for Harry is a big deal, you know?
Yeah,
it's a big
for
deal.
Sure.
Like maybe, you know, just his inner circle, he could do that. Murphy, you know,
Thomas, Michael.
Yep, exactly.
So the last thing I want to do here before we leave, I've mentioned this in a previous episode, but just the music at the end of these books is so good, and I feel like it just really perfectly encapsulates kind of the theme or the feeling of each book. You know, like in Deadbeat, we got like this really kind of dark and dirty, like detective theme music playing, I feel like. And in this one, we, you know, despite all the horrible things that happen, this is kind of a brighter, more easygoing book. And it kind of gives off a little bit of what I call like magical summer. Like it's just got a very magical feel to this song. So I just want to play the last couple seconds of the book here.
Laugh all you want. I looked around the place for a minute more. The coffee girls were having a private conversation, evidently discussing us, if all the covert glances and quiet little smiles were any indication. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing, and it felt good.
Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right.
This is James Marston.
It just feels so
We hope that
magical.
you enjoyed this production of White Knight by Jim Butcher. This program was executive produced by Patty Peruse.
It's so perfect. I think they started doing this in, I want to say, Death Masks. They started putting the music in. And every time I get to the end of the book, like, I'm just like, oh, that's just like,
You're like, yay,
yay. Like, it's just such a
like a
perfect
soothing
way.
balm on my skin.
Yeah, it's just such a perfect way to like close out the story with this little song that just perfectly, relates to what the book is.
For
So
sure.
I love that. All right, so that is pretty much it. Future book questions. Normally in our normal podcast, we usually do this for books that we're in the middle of reading for the first time so that we can guess at what's coming. But lately, I think in the past couple of videos, I've just been putting stuff that will be important later on in this section. But this week, I actually do have one that I don't know, and I don't think we've gotten an answer to it yet. So Harry and Murphy at the end of this book, they talk about how they still don't know who blew up Murphy's car, like who put the bomb there. We don't get an answer to that.
Yeah. Well, he guesses. He's like, well, probably magical, same bomb, but you're right. They never proved it, and they never knew.
Yeah,
Like, for sure.
Yeah, because he says that, and Murphy has some skeptical thing to say about it, and they're like, yeah, I guess we don't
Yep.
know. And it's just another weird mystery, kind of akin to the ones in Proven Guilty, like who ran Harry off the road, who fixed Little Chicago,
Yep.
those kind of things. And so I wonder if it's going to be a time traveling Harry who comes back to put a bomb in her car.
Oh, that's a good theory.
Because, for whatever reason, getting into that car would have been, bad or whatever. And so if Harry came back to do that so they wouldn't get into it, I don't know.
Interesting.
But all of my theories revolve around a time traveling Harry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows? All right. Any final thoughts on this book? We ranked it fourth, right?
Yep.
Or third?
Third, yeah.
Third underneath Deadbeat.
Yep.
So yeah, any final thoughts, or are you looking forward to any of the next couple books specifically?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the whole. I feel like the next like 2 or 3 books after this are ones that I haven't really reread a lot.
Yeah.
Versus
same.
like the last, I've reread the last 2 books, the newest ones several times. And same with, like Proven Guilty, I've read probably the most, I would say. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to kind of rereading those for what's gonna feel like the first time probably.
Yeah, because
So.
we got Small Favor next.
Yep.
And then which has that awesome aquarium scene.
Yep.
And then Turncoat, which is I don't want to give anything away. It's
Yeah.
another big
Yep.
really fun mystery. And then, dude, we have Changes.
Oh
after
man, I cannot
Turncoat.
wait for that one.
I cannot wait for Changes.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be nuts,
my God.
dude. That's
It's
gonna be a
so
4-hour
good.
podcast right there.
Yeah,
Even after editing.
Dude, yeah, we might actually want to do Changes in like 2 parts.
Yeah.
Like actually
Yeah.
like actually 2 different recording dates.
For sure,
like 2
yeah.
different
It would
parts.
make sense, man.
Yeah.
Easily, there's like three books worth of content and information that happens in that one book.
Yeah, because I think it's like that and Cold Days are like the biggest books physically. Well,
Yeah.
then you have Battlegrounds, but
Yep.
like Changes is where the books get bigger significantly. But not only that, like you said, there's just simply more information packed into that
Yep.
book than any other book. Like
Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
no fat on that book.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we honestly might want to read like half that book, do a podcast,
and then read the other half. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's exactly what I was thinking too.
So all right, man. Well, thanks for hopping on the podcast to talk
yeah.
about White Knight. It's
Oh, yeah.
always super fun.
Love the Dresden Files, man.
Yeah, dude. Looking forward to doing another Mr. Robot
Yep.
with you this weekend. And Chris will be there.
Yes.
So that'll be a ton of fun. And then we have Jade Setter of John Loon Fondelee's short story, which I guess came out like a month ago and I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, we definitely gotta cover that after doing all
Yep.
the other Greenbone Saga stuff. And so, yeah, that's what we'll be doing next. It should be a ton of fun. All right, guys, that is going to wrap us up there. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to feed Gabe by hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. And you can follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy if you'd like to keep up with what we're reading, etc. Keep your eyes out for those upcoming videos and let us know if there's anything that you would like to see us discuss on the podcast. Thanks again for watching and listening to us ramble about our favorite fantasy series. And until next time, what are you getting Harry for Christmas?
We should do a poll
Oh yeah.
on that question.
What would you get Harry Dresden
Yeah.
for Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Do a Twitter poll, man.
Yeah, we'll include it in our next
Okay.
cool.
Next
podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll read what people said.
be awesome.
Yeah.